In a storm that hides more than thunder, a lonely rancher finds a trembling girl in his barn, whispering a secret no man should ever hear. What begins as mercy soon turns to blood when justice meets sin under the moonlight. But as dawn breaks, one question rides with the wind. Did he save a life or lose his own soul doing it? The rain came hard. That night, the kind that soaked through the roof tiles and filled every hoofprint in the yard with muddy water. Cole Harlow rode in from the southern pasture, shoulders heavy from another day of fixing fences and fighting debts. The thunder rumbled far off, but something about that night felt wrong, like the land itself was holding its breath. He led his tired horse into the barn and lit a lantern. The warm glow spilled over the hay bales, the saddle hooks, the old wooden beams. Then he heard it, faint at first, almost lost in the patter of rain. A sob, small, broken. It wasn't the cry of an animal. It was a child. He turned slowly, scanning the shadows. "Who's there?" He called out, voice low but firm. No answer, only another muffled whimper. He moved closer, boots sinking into the damp straw until he saw her. A little girl crouched behind the haystack, her knees drawn to her chest, trembling like a leaf in the wind. Her hair was tangled, her dress torn, and her feet were bare. "Hey now," he said gently, lowering the lantern. "You hurt? You lost?" She shook her head, hugging a small wool blanket to her chest. Her lips trembled as she spoke, barely a whisper. "Please don't send me back." Cole knelt beside her, his hat dripping rainwater onto the ground. Up close, he could see the bruises blooming faintly along her arm, the dirt on her face, the wild fear in her eyes. His stomach tightened. "Back where, sweetheart?" She swallowed hard. Her eyes flicked toward the barn door as if afraid someone might come in at any moment. "Home," she whispered. "To my pa." Cole felt something inside him go still. "What's he done to you?" The girl's hands gripped the blanket tighter, her voice breaking. "He comes in every night," she said, tears cutting lines through the dirt on her cheeks. "I locked the door, but he still finds a way." The lantern flame flickered between them. Outside, thunder cracked like gunfire. Cole looked at her, this small, broken thing shaking in the cold, and his breath caught in his throat. He'd seen death on battlefields, seen men do unspeakable things in the dark. But nothing felt as heavy as the silence between her words. "Where's your ma?" he asked softly. The girl didn't answer right away. Her eyes stared somewhere past him, far away. "He says she left, but I heard him digging one night, by the creek." Cole's jaw clenched. The wind whistled through the barn boards, and the storm howled like the devil himself outside. He took off his coat and draped it around her shoulders. "You're safe here tonight," he said quietly. "Ain't no one coming through that door while I'm breathing." The girl looked up at him, searching his face as if trying to believe in the words. Her tears slowed. She nodded once, then leaned against the hay, exhaustion pulling her into sleep. Cole stayed there long after, sitting on the cold floor beside her, rifle within reach, listening to the storm fade into the night, and wondering what kind of man he'd have to become by morning. The sky had gone black by the time Cole saddled his horse again. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the wind still carried the smell of wet earth and pine. He rode slow through the brush, every hoofstep muffled by the soaked ground. The girl slept back at the barn under his coat, safe for now. But her words burned through him like whiskey fire. He stopped at the ridge overlooking the valley. Below lay a single cabin, leaning crooked against the wind, its windows faintly lit. The place looked half dead, no smoke from the chimney, no light but a weak lantern in the front room. He'd ridden past that cabin before. Folks said the man who lived there kept two. Himself, after his wife, ran off. Cole had never thought twice about it. Until now. He watched. 10 minutes, 20. The moon came out from behind a cloud, throwing pale light over the clearing. Then he saw it. A man stumbling up the path, bottle in hand, shoulders heavy, gait mean. Even from the ridge, Cole could tell he was drunk. The man kicked open the door and staggered inside. The lantern flickered once, shadows moving against the window. Then came a faint sound, sharp and soft, like a child's cry cut short. Cole's hand went to his rifle. For a long moment he didn't move. He could have turned back. He could have told himself it wasn't his fight, that the law should handle it. But the law was a day's ride away, and men like that didn't wait till sunrise. He slid off his horse, boots sinking into mud, and made his way down the slope. Every step felt heavier than the last. The wind hissed through the trees, brushing against his coat like cold fingers. When he reached the porch, he could hear it. The man's voice inside. Low and slurred, words twisted by drink. Then a sharp thud. Then silence. Cole's pulse roared in his ears. He pushed open the door. The room smelled of whiskey and rot. The man turned, eyes red, a knife glinting in his hand. Who the hell, he started, but he never finished. Cole raised his rifle and fired. The crack split the night open. The man's body hit the floorboards hard, the knife clattering beside him. For a long moment, there was only the echo of thunder rolling through the hills. Cole stood there, smoke curling from the rifle barrel, breath shaking in his chest. He stared at the man on the ground, the one who'd put fear in a child's eyes, and felt no triumph, only a deep, hollow stillness. He turned toward the back room. The door creaked open and the girl stood there, her small hands gripping the frame, eyes wide and wet. She didn't scream. She just looked at him, at the man who'd done what no one else would. Cole lowered the rifle slowly, the weight of what he'd done pressing into his bones. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he walked to the table, set down his rifle, and dropped to his knees. The storm outside had gone quiet, but inside, the silence was louder than any thunder he'd ever heard. Dawn crept slow across the prairie, soft and pale, turning the wet earth gold. Smoke curled gently from the chimney of Cole's cabin, the only sign of life on that wide stretch of land. Inside, the fire had burned low. Cole sat in his chair by the window, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the horizon. His hands still trembled faintly, though the rifle was long put away. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the man's face, the shock, the fear the moment the light went out. He'd killed before. Men do what they must in war, on the trail to survive. But this was different. This wasn't a fight. It was a choice. Behind him, the floor creaked. The girl stepped softly across the room, wrapped in his old wool coat that hung nearly to her ankles. She stood quiet for a long while before whispering, "You didn't have to stay." Cole didn't look at her. His voice was low, rough from a night of silence. "Couldn't leave you here alone." She came closer, clutching the coat tight around her. Her hair was brushed now, her face clean, though her eyes still carried the shadows of things no child should see. She hesitated before asking, "Will they come for you?" He nodded once. "The law always comes. Might take a day, might take two, but they'll ride out here when they find him." The girl's chin trembled. "He was a bad man." Cole finally turned, meeting her eyes. "Doesn't make it right what I did." She frowned, confused, searching his face. "But you saved me." He leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight, gaze drifting toward the open door where sunlight spilled across the floorboards. Sometimes saving someone costs more than you think. Outside, the land stretched endless, rolling fields, a thin ribbon of river, the grave silence of the west. Cole stood and walked out onto the porch, boots sinking into the wet wood. The morning air was sharp, filled with the scent of rain and ash. He could already see dust rising far off. Riders, maybe, or just the wind kicking up the trail. The girl followed him out, standing beside him in the light. She looked so small, so fragile, yet there was a strength in her eyes now. Something new, the beginning of healing, maybe. "You did it," she said softly. "You stopped him." Cole nodded, slow and heavy. "No, darling, I just ended him." He paused, looking toward the horizon. "Ain't the same thing." She stared up at him, her voice barely more than a breath. "Then maybe some sins save souls." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The world around them seemed to hold still, the wind, the birds, even the clouds waiting to move again. Finally, Cole tipped his hat low over his eyes. He turned toward his horse, tightening the saddle strap with steady hands. The girl watched him, silent, her small fingers gripping the porch rail. "Where will you go?" she asked. "Don't rightly know," he said. "But I reckon there's a place out there where a man can live with what he's done." He swung into the saddle, the leather creaking beneath him. The sun climbed higher, painting the fields in gold. For a moment he looked back, at the cabin, at the girl on the porch, at the smoke curling into the sky like a prayer. "Lock the doors," he said quietly, "and don't open them for no one till the marshal rides through." She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. But she smiled too, small, trembling, grateful. Cole touched the brim of his hat, turned his horse toward the road, and rode off into the rising sun. The wind caught his coat as he disappeared over the ridge, leaving behind the sound of hooves fading into the morning, and a promise that even in the darkest corners of the Wild West, there were still men who'd do the unthinkable for what's right.